All right, no time to fiddle fart around today, kids. Welcome in. We're talking Cowboys football. I'm Jeff Kavanaugh from DLLS Cowboys Show. YouTube.com/at DLLS_sports is where you can find our show every day. Bryan Broaddus from The Fan. Love the Star podcast. Here with me, there with Vach, Cowboys.com, everywhere. And Bryan tells me he wants to play a game with me.
Jeffrey, I'm going to play this game with you. I'm going to ask you, is this player on the right track, or are we at a fork in the road with this player?
Oh, okay. I like that.
And I want you to, I'm kind of like with your love for Tombstone. That's why I did the fork in the road kind of a thing. You know, it's kind of a Westerny thing to say. We're at the fork in the road here. You know, so that's why I kind of did it with. But I think you could apply these players, and I'm going to give you a player, and I want to say right track or fork in the road. Okay. Hopefully I won't mess up fork in the road a bunch. You know, that would be kind of funny if I did. Osa Odighizuwa, right track or fork in the road?
Man, I think their defense stuff is so hard because they have so many guys that aren't good enough that have to play football. But I also think I've been underwhelmed by Osa this year. So I think Osa is absolutely a fork in the road player where if you had said after 3 years of his career that he was going to hit free agency, I would project him to get a pretty darn good contract. And now that he's in the fourth one and I'm watching him play football, I would say, man, Osa might be hanging around as a Cowboy for the next 2 or 3 years because you hit the offseason and there's not a ton of interest in him. I think he's absolutely fork in the road because he's it's funny because at camp he always looks, I'm like, man, he's a big, stout dude. And then by the time they start playing football, I'm like, man, he's a light defensive tackle and he's getting moved around. And maybe part of that is that they just don't have an opportunity to be a pressure team very often because teams just run it down their throat. But I have been unimpressed with Osa so far this year, so I would say fork in the road.
Yeah, I feel like that if you're playing in a contract year right now, that you're trying to get people to be interested in you. And I don't know, I think that you would have to look at his film. If you say you were at the 49ers or, you know, you were another team and I was a pro director there, I would be looking at his tape and I'm like, this guy plays really well for about 13 weeks. You know, and then he kind of falls off the wayside. But it seems like now we're not seeing the negative plays that we've seen from him in the past. We haven't seen the disruptive player in. So I feel like he's the fork of the road, and the fork of the road could lead you to somewhere else, or if not somewhere else, you know, you're coming back on a contract, a cheap contract, because you didn't do enough to make people feel like that they needed to pay for you that way. Now, he's got a couple of allies, probably, you know, one with the Commanders, and then his former defensive line coach is out in Seattle. So
I feel like you're about to ask a lot of players, and I'm going to say fork in the road because if you're looking for guys who have played great, we're gonna have problems.
Turpin.
He's on the right path. The fumble at the end of the game is not good. Turpin has always been one of those guys that I'd been interested to get more snaps and see him play wide receiver. And between the way that he looked at camp and continuing to make plays each week as a receiver and a return man, I would say he is on the right path. I don't know what that means exactly for the Dallas Cowboys because I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that teams view as a starting high quality wide receiver and a return man.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it means for his pockets, but I think out of all of the Cowboy wide receivers, he's probably the one that I'm most interested in having out there the most and seeing him do more and seeing how he can handle that. Stop fumbling later because when you fumble, you make me feel bad.
Yeah, I kind of feel like with Turpin, it's the way they're using him. He's kind of a fork in the road player for them because you really don't, you know, there's not the OTAs, mini camps. Man, I always get so fired up for those, and I don't know why. I'm just going to stop going to those because I do see like, oh, look, they're trying to get him the ball here. Oh, look, they're moving him here. Oh, look, they're doing things with him here. Oh, wait a minute, they're gonna have new kickoff rules. You know, you saw for a great example of what he could do last week against the Lions with these new kickoff rules. You know, he brought that thing all the way out. You know, and all of a sudden now it's on their side of the field, you know, with a chance to get it home. But I feel like the way that they use him, he's kind of a fork in the road player. Now, maybe for somebody else, he would be on the right path guy. I just don't like the way that they use him. And, the 4th and 2 pass to him the other day, the smash route stuff, okay, you're asking him to, the separation. Arnold did a great job playing the route. It just was a bad day at the ball yard for the offense. But, I'm glad that they're trying to do things, but man, there's times where I'm just like, man, you need to do more with this guy. This guy's a legitimate weapon in a lot of ways. So,
you know what? To your point of fork in the road, I do think that's exactly the sort of route that I want Kavontae Turpin to win on.
Yeah,
and that's a perfect scenario for man coverage.
You're right. You're right. And
like that's a man beater is an out and back in route. You're trying to get them to take a step, and then with your speed and quickness, you're supposed to win. And it's just you also sometimes the DB's right. And
he was right. Arnold was good in that day. Terence Steele.
I mean, if the two options are on the right path and fork in the road, it's definitely fork in the road. I was hopeful that you would get another year away from injury and that Terence Steele would be close to the best version of him, which was maybe his first or second year as a Cowboys starter. I think that Terence Steele, you know me, I'm a psycho.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time on overthecap.com.
You do?
Playing around with things. I think Terence Steele is a big-time post-June 1 cut candidate after this season. And if Tyler Guyton doesn't I do think he'll get a bunch more opportunities at left tackle.
He will. He will.
But if that continues to not go well, then you might say, hey, how do you feel on the right?
Yeah.
How are we going to maybe work that? I think this offensive line is at a massive fork in the road because Zach Martin's not who he was. Maybe he's banged up. He's going to retire, I think. Terence Steele, I think, should be a cut candidate in the offseason. And now we've got an opportunity where my right guard spot's open, my right tackle spot's open. Maybe Tyler Guyton can try out for both and see if you can win one of these jobs. Maybe if you don't love the way Cooper Beebe comes along at center, he may be a candidate to play right guard, and I can start playing musical chairs and just figure out who the best guys are. But yeah, Terence Steele is absolutely fork in the road guy.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that he might be the little bit of a mercy of new staff coming in too. Terence lost his sponsor with Joe Philbin. We'll see. Mike Solari, Mike Solari has kind of come out, and I know he can't be critical of, when they ask him questions and stuff, he's we'll just keep playing. We'll get better. You're like, yeah, coach, we'll keep playing and we'll keep getting better. You're right. But I hope deep down, in the off seasons or, like I say, maybe there'll be a new coaching staff here. Who knows that? Maybe a new coach will come in here. I think your offensive line coach, whoever that might be, if that's a new hire, is one of the most important hires you can have.
For sure. And
I mean, you have a bad offensive line coach, you're going to have problems. Yeah. You are going to have bad problems. And so that's important. If there is a coaching change at the end of this campaign, this front office needs to say, okay, as you're interviewing these coaches, okay, well, who is your offensive line coach? And if it's somebody that I can't study or somebody I don't know or somebody I can't.
Callahan.
Yeah. Running game Moses is
Bring back Bill Callahan.
Running game
Always
Moses
the answer.
back. I love it.
Isn't he coaching with his kid now, though?
He is in Tennessee. He's in Tennessee.
You can't get him back anymore. By the way, if you're here, we sure would appreciate if you hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and leave your favorite fast food item in the chat because the chat is good for the algorithm. Thank you.
Yeah, I love fast food items. Jack in the Box tacos are really, really good.
Arby's curly fries. They also make a good
jeez, my gosh.
Yeah,
that's excellent. Deone Clark.
I have heard that Deone Clark might think that he should play more over some of the young players who are playing for the Cowboys. What is his contract status? Is this year 3 and he would have 1 left? I'm going to have to double check that, but I think that's right.
You're the one on over the cap all the time. I'm kind of relying on you, but I'm just saying as a player, Deone Clark.
He's a fork in the road player, but he's a weird one because I think the fork in the road is actually Mike Zimmer or the linebacker coach or whoever. Because I actually think that Deone Clark has played pretty well this year. Like if you're looking for the guy who is Overshown and Leofau both, I feel like, are kind of similar in that if they see it immediately and they beat the offensive lineman to the punch who's trying to cut him off, and the alley that the guy has to go to is pretty clear, you got a couple of missiles.
Yeah.
But if you want the guy that just plays more consistently sound football, I think this year it's been Deone Clark, and yet he's the one who, when they're all healthy, has been pushed out and doesn't get to play. So his fork in the road, I think, is just more so that it's who does the staff like and how much are they going to put young players out there. Plus you've got Kendricks, who obviously the defensive coordinator likes and trusts. So it's a fork in the road in terms of how often are you going to get on the field and what are you going to do when you get there and what does it mean? And are you going to demand a trade, which I've heard maybe he would like to be traded.
Yeah. I kind of feel like, though, to me, that you're in a situation where Deone Clark, when does he get the opportunities? I think he has this last game just because of the injuries. I do worry about assignments at times, and I do worry about gambling on blocks, and I do worry, and I think that's maybe why the staff doesn't do what they do with him, because they do worry about the assignment sound football stuff, and if they feel like that, that you're doing things to kind of throw the defense in harm's way, they're probably not going to play you. And I think Deone Clark might be in the fork of the road because of Deone Clark is a very talented player. We all know that. But you wonder when Deone Clark doesn't have a safety blanket or a crutch or somebody kind of helping him along, that there's some guessing going on and some jumping some gaps and things like that. So
Douglas says Jack in the Box churros dipped in the vanilla milkshake. McDonald's fries from Brandon, Sonic French toast sticks. And Nesto with super chat. I was born in 96 and loved this my whole. Oh, what a terrible time to be born as a Cowboy fan. But this year I think I'm done. It hurts to say this. I feel like I'm seeing that from.
You be a Packer fan. Be a Packer fan in 96. We won a Super Bowl then. That's.
You get to cheer for whoever you want, but shout out to the people who just you can't quit the Cowboys. We appreciate you because we covered them.
No, we covered the team. I think it's hard for Cowboy fans to quit their team. I really do.
Hard, it's hard for sports fans to quit their team.
It sure is.
It's your team.
It is your team.
Yeah, it's just you just have to. This year, it appears that the expectations will be different. It's just sometimes you're not a contender, and you have to look at things a different way and just talk about where you are and what you're doing and analyze it that way.
DaRon Bland.
I think you picked the wrong corner on this game.
I can't take Diggs because fork in the road. He's yours.
Oh, because he's paid.
He's paid. I mean, if you think about where Diggs, there's your quarterback, your receiver. This is one of the reasons why I think Jerry Jones got mad at my station the other day, Jeff.
Why do you think he got mad at your station the other day?
I think he got mad.
He said Bobby Belt doesn't know anything about football.
Bobby doesn't know football. It's, I mean, he's not saying anything that's not true. That part of it is factual. I love you, Bobby. I love you, Robert. I really do. God, Bobby's good at what he does. I think Jerry got mad at us the other day. And let me run this by you real quick if we could take a little break in the game then.
Yeah, take a break from the game.
I think Jerry got mad at us because, and see if you like this theory or not. I think Jerry was over there with the front office sitting down and talking about things. And maybe there's a side of him that didn't want to pay Dak Prescott $60 million and didn't want to pay CeeDee Lamb $35 million. Maybe he thought, let's ride this thing out and let's see. Let's see. I got Mike McCarthy on a 1-year deal. Let's see. I think there's a side of Jerry Jones that didn't want to do a lot of these things. And his lieutenants, people in the organization, convinced him to do it. Yeah, we need to sign. Dad, we need to sign Dak. We need to sign CeeDee. We need to do these things. And these guys aren't playing particularly great for him right now. And he was in the mode of maybe arguing like, listen, we could let this thing ride and try and redo it all. We could let it ride, try. And And they said, no, we can't do that. We gotta stay the course. It's very similar to how they got to the Johnny Manziel decision or other decisions, Zach Martin, those decisions that they get to. That there was a side of Jerry that thought, are we really doing the right thing? And the guys in his inner circle convinced him, yeah. So now he's taking a lot of heat for the way the team looks, when in actuality, he was thinking, I could rebuild this thing, or I could try to rebuild this thing, and I don't have to pay this quarterback $60 million, and I don't have to. And now he can't come out and say, he kept bringing up the fact of Dak's contract. He kept bringing up CeeDee's contract. He kept bringing that up, and it just made me think that maybe Jerry was against doing this, and he got convinced to do it, and now he's having to take the arrows for it. Make sense?
No, yeah, I think that makes sense. The only thing that I would tell Jerry about that, I would say, when your ego is as big as it is and you demand the title that says GM,
yeah,
that's what you get. This,
you get to be GM, but
you get all of this.
Yeah.
But no, I think that makes sense.
I only say this shit because of my experience, and my experience with Jerry Jones was a long time ago. Last time it was 2005. I remember how we always feared the last person that talked to Jerry. Give you a great example. DeMarcus Ware was drafted because of Rick Gosselin got to Jerry last. That was the deciding factor on the night before the draft. We were talking about Merriman and Ware, and Rick Gosselin pushed that thing over the top. A lot of moves we've made. I mean, he came out one time at a press conference, really pissed the scouts off. Talked about DeMarco Murray. He goes, God, Barry Switzer gave us the best scouting report on DeMarco Murray. That's the reason why we drafted DeMarco Murray. Boy, we love DeMarco Murray. And the scouts are like, damn, did a lot of work on DeMarco Murray, You always fear the last person that gets to Jerry, good or bad. And Jerry is a listener. He will listen. I'll never forget. Jim Garrett sat there and told us that Drew Henson was the next Troy Aikman.
Hell yeah.
Jerry's glasses were on the end of his nose, and he looked up at Garrett like, really? That's all it took. Sean Payton looked at me and goes, we're effed. We're effed.
Oh no. Oh no.
And so, that's kind of where, there's a lot of things that Jerry will, he always talked about. He's got guys around the league, Belichick, Parcells. He's got people that tell him, give him advice and stuff. This one might have been where he got advice on all this, and it's not playing out to how everybody told him it was going to play out.
Well, I'm sure it's not fun to have your best, highest paid players not help carry your team. Because I mean, I was looking at it yesterday, again, over the cap, and like your highest paid players are like Zach, other than Dak, Zach Martin, Terence, Steele, Donovan Wilson's up there. Like a lot of Diggs, a lot of your highest paid players aren't helping you. And when you don't have a talented team and your best guys aren't helping you, good effing luck. Shout out to Alec in the super chat. Yeah. I felt like he kind of defended Dak. He did say he has to play better, but guys have to block better for him and guys have to run the right routes. I do think even you could, if everything that you are laying out is how it went and what's going on in Jerry's brain.
Just a theory. This is all just my theory of working for the man for 14 years.
Right. And that theory, if that theory were to track and were to check out, it also, which you mentioned, like he still would have to defend Dak at least somewhat on the radio, because you're not going to destroy your quarterback who's going to be here for the next 4 years.
But he has to,
but he wants to fire his little shot.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I just believe that there's a side of Jerry that he listens and it makes me wonder if in fact that he's like, listen, let's let this thing ride. This thing went all the way to the day before training camp, before we got on a plane and went to Oxnard.
Yeah.
The CeeDee Lamb thing was a holdout right before the season. What happened? I mean, there's probably a side of Jerry that's like, F this, let's let this thing ride. Let's try and, they never want to talk about a rebuild or anything like that. all this would be not a problem at all if Jerry would come out and say, we're rebuilding this year. We're not good enough.
And didn't he kind of sort of admit it a week or two ago? Like he didn't disagree with the word soft rebuild. Like you can just look at the way that they're doing things, and it's hard to say that they're not. If you were not in some sort of rebuild, retool, then you would be talking about how to make your team better. But instead, you're getting to see TJ Bass play, and you're getting to see fill in the blank. You're finding out what your young guys have, and they're letting that ride.
I hate to be this guy, but if you really, and you look it over the cap, look at the next few years. This thing might really be effed for the.
Oh, they're about to eat, like next year. They're going to eat Tank money, Zach money, Cook's money.
It's going to be tough. I mean, you think this year might be bad? Wait for maybe the next 2 years to be bad, and then and now. There was a time maybe a year ago where if you talked about trading Parsons, that you got this onslaught, this wave of what the F are you talking about, you idiots? It might have to happen. If you're
might be a good idea.
If you're a draft and develop team, trading Parsons, you can't pay Parsons $35 million a year.
Oh, you can.
You can? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can. Because all you do is you just push it. You push it and you push it and you push it.
Yeah.
Like the Eagles have $10-20 million. They might feel like they can't. And I actually think that would be fine just because of the number of things you need. The only problem is if you trade away somebody like Parsons, I don't think they would handle it the right way. Like you'd get the picks.
You don't think you think they used the picks like the Raiders did when they got all those picks?
No, I think you might get some of the picks right, but I think in my mind, if you did something like that, you do it knowing I can't replace him. What I get back is not going to equal Micah. What it's going to equal is hopefully cheap labor at multiple positions, and I could take 60% of what I was going to pay him and go sign a super good player. I think they would skip that part.
That part, you're right. You're probably right about that. The thing about it is, like, the thing if you move on from Parsons, it's because there's a lot of people out there that are like, and I don't know how you feel about this. I know Vach was talking about this last night on our podcast. He was saying, listen, I need Parsons to be Myles Garrett or, Watt, or, I need him to be that guy. And there's times where he's not always that guy. And I think that's, if you're trying to earmark $35 million to somebody, you want them to be that guy, like all the time.
Yeah, I get it. No, I get it. I mean, the best part of his game, obviously, is go get the quarterback. And if your defense as a whole doesn't give you the ability to go get
they're not there. The run stuff's bad right now.
That's the hard part, is like I think they've allowed themselves to get to the point where they're bad at offensive line and defensive line, and now you've made everybody's job really, really, really hard.
Yeah. I mean, your team would be worse without Micah Parsons, don't get me wrong, but it's something that I wonder in 11 weeks that we all start working on the draft and we go, the best thing for them to do is probably get as many picks as they can. And if he can generate, now you have to determine where you're going to send him also. That's a big thought. Do you send him to a team, if you were to Detroit or somebody like that is probably going to be picking 26th, 28th every year now?
No, you could take your ass to the AFC. I'm not trying to see you.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to see you. You
gotta take what you can take, man.
Micah Parsons as a Raven. Micah Parsons would be a wild ass Raven.
How about though with him with the Detroit, him on one side and that Hutchinson on the other, and then they sign McNeil as a tackle. Man, that might be a pretty good crew.
That ain't right. that ain't right. Let me what are we doing? No, he needs to be a Patriot. I'm trying to get the high picks.
Yeah, try to get that. That's exactly right. Can I just give you one more guy? Did we cover Bland? Did we?
You mentioned him, and then I sidetracked to complain that Diggs isn't playing well. Bland is, he's forking the road because I think
he's a contract that's going to come up, and maybe that's a contract that might have been better than Diggs's contract.
Yeah, and like, what is Bland going to be? It'll be determined over the course of the rest of this season, and if something doesn't get done after that, after next season, we'll determine. Are you going to parlay all of the interceptions and all of the touchdowns?
Trade Bland
into being one of the highest paid DBs in football, or was that congrats on the plays you made?
Yeah,
but you're just an okay starting corner. And
this makes me
spectrum
nervous.
of what his payday could be.
Yeah,
he could be a $25 million, $30 million player. He could be a $6 million player.
Yeah,
I have no idea, and it'll be determined over the next 10 weeks or year plus 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And I don't know which one he's going to be. Could I trade Bland? Maybe. Not right now. Not if Diggs is
No,
not going to play good
no.
football.
See, that's what I'm worried about, that all of a sudden, man, Jordan, if you kind of gave grades, which we did on DallasCowboys.com yesterday.
Lewis has been my best corner, and he makes nothing.
If you give him grades, Lewis might be the closest thing to an A defender you have right now. Everybody else, where's everybody else on that list?
Yeah, I mean, Parsons when he plays is obviously still really good, but yeah.
If through 6 weeks, would you give him an
A? I'd give him at least a B. I'd give him at least a B.
I see what you're doing there, Abilene Christian.
I'd give him at least a B. Any other defenders? The guy that's surprisingly been at least decent is Chauncey Golston.
That's what I was going to ask you for. He was my next fork in the road guy. On the right track or fork in the road guy?
Oh, he's on the right track. And it's funny because at first I was being funny in the post game after the Detroit game, because we have to on DLLS Cowboys post game. We have to have our Empire Today Impact Player of the Game.
Oh, yeah.
And they were like, "Who do you got?" And Vach was like, "I want an empty silhouette or like a milk carton," because the answer is no. And I was like, "Well, if I got to pick one, I'll go with Chauncey Golston." They're like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because I noticed in like the third quarter when everybody had quit playing football that he was at least trying his best."
Yeah.
And he's done some decent football when they started listening to us at camp, and it was like, "Don't line him up at D tackle. That's such a terrible idea. He can't play there."
Yeah.
But when he lines up out there on the edge, he's been a decent little player.
Yeah.
He's on the right path.
I would say so too. It's funny that, he's one of those guys that usually plays like 18 plays and you're kind of like, okay, but he's playing like 40 something plays now, 35 something plays. And he looks good doing it. I kind of worried about the number of plays that he was going to have to play, and maybe the play would drop off. With him, it kind of stays pretty steady. He's not perfect, but for a guy that plays the 18 plays and having to play more plays, I can't rail against him here.
Nope. The rest of the players are bad.
It's been a struggle. My defensive coordinator has been bad too. He'll admit it.
That one's hard for
it's hard. It's hard for me, especially because I have a relationship with the guy, but they're not doing a very good job right now. And
they also have no players.
They have no players. They have no players. And I'm not going to use this as an excuse because Mike, but there are things scheme wise that they probably could do a little bit better. And you're right. They don't have the players, but when you don't have players, you got to find ways to create. I still, that Pittsburgh win, because people always want this team doesn't have toughness and all that. I'm like, no, they got toughness. That Pittsburgh win was a gritty damn win. That was a gritty, tough win without players. Don't say these guys aren't tough or tough-minded or mentally tough and all that. That was go to Pittsburgh and win a game like that. That was a tough win, without the guys. So don't go there.
You want to get you a tough win, go get one in, 9 days, 10 days?
Oh, in San Francisco?
Yeah, it'll get you a tough win.
Yeah,
it would change everything.
Oh no, I mean that's the boogeyman right there.
I think they're going to lose by 25 points.
Do you?
I do. I think they're going to get dog walked because it's not just who you're missing and how things have gone so far.
You're going to get Micah back.
Cool.
You just told me he's the difference maker in this thing.
He's a difference maker.
Okay.
You ain't making a difference in San Francisco.
Be a wet blanket guy. You're going to play better on defense. Micah Parsons back.
Yep. So
probably going to have Bland back. Probably have Parson back. Yeah.
I'm a vibes guy.
You're
vibes out there from everyone who talks these days are butt.
Hey, Short Dog says, hey, my wife likes you, Jeff.
What?
Yeah. Saw that. Wife? See that? Is that Short Dog?
Thanks, right Short Dog. Tell her I said, what's up? Everybody hit the like button and subscribe.
Make sure, Short Dog, your wife hits the like button for Jeff, please.
Yeah, make sure that your wife hits the like button and give me
I just noticed that. I usually don't read those comments, but that one I just read.
Leave in the comments how many points the Cowboys are going to beat the 49ers by. That's
There
what
you go,
I'm
Jeff. Be
looking
positive.
for.
Be
There
positive.
we go. Let's get it popping. Thank you, Bryan. It's Bryan Broaddus, 105.3 The Fan, and everywhere else where you can find him. I'm Jeff.